Just when we thought all hope was running out for 2020, well, Mandalorian is here to save us. Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian dropped today, and let's talk about it. I will be going non-spoiler and then spoiler, and I will give a clear indication of when I'm going to be starting the spoiler section, so don't worry, the first part will not have any spoilers for Season 2 of The Mandalorian. I will be dropping some spoilers for Season 1 of The Mandalorian though, so if you haven't seen that season, then just be warned. And also, yeah, I know, there's not a lot of footage available for The Mandalorian. Like, usually with these reviews, there's 2, maybe even 3 trailers to work with. But for this season of The Mandalorian, they gave us like 1 minute of footage, so I'll be using that a lot, and also I'll be using some footage from Season 1 of The Mandalorian, so yeah, just so you guys know, I know some of this footage is from Season 1. I just don't have a lot to work with. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe and give this video a like, and without further ado, let's get started with the review. Okay, so to be quite honest with you guys, I wasn't the biggest fan of Mandalorian Season 1. I liked it, for sure, and as a big Star Wars fan, I thought it was pretty good. Don't mistake this for me saying I hated it, no. I genuinely had a pretty good time watching all 8 episodes of the first season. My biggest complaint, though, with The Mandalorian Season 1 is that there wasn't an overarching story for most of the episodes. To be quite honest with you guys, I felt that you could have cut episodes 2 through 6 and just watched 1, 7, and 8, and you would have gotten pretty much the general idea of what the story was. And that was a little bit disappointing to me. Like, 8 episodes isn't that much. 8 weeks is a long time, but it really isn't at the same time. So to have even 3, 4, 5 of the episodes feel like filler was just pretty disappointing to me. So going into Season 2, I wanted to see more of the things that I liked about Season 1, which was Mando, the side characters, like Cara Dune, Greef Karga, Moff Gideon, and of course Baby Yoda, and then just see an overarching story. We have heard tons and tons and tons of rumors about Ahsoka, Sabine, Bo-Katan, Boba Fett, so just knowing that those elements were in play, I was really excited to at least see those things enter the story, because maybe it meant that there would be more of an overarching story throughout the season. Now, one of the best things that I will say right off the bat about Episode 1, Season 2 is that it is long. The episode is listed at 54 minutes, and yes, some of it is intro, some of it is filler with the credits, but still, it is a hefty running time, and I am so happy with that. And I really hope that this isn't just for the pilot and just for the finale. I hope that episodes 1 through 8 are all about 45 to an hour, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. Anyways, on to the actual episode. Without giving anything away, this is very much Mandalorian. If you liked Mandalorian Season 1, you're gonna love this episode. If you didn't like Mandalorian Season 1, I can't say that you're going to enjoy this episode. And if you're like me, who had a good time with Mandalorian Season 1, I had a great time with this episode. It isn't the best episode of television that I've ever seen, but it is solid. It is extremely well crafted, and yeah, from beginning to end, it feels like a good solid episode of television. Going back to the running time, one of the biggest things that helped give this episode more substance was the fact that it was longer. Some of those 30 to 40 minute episodes in Season 1 just felt too short, and that's why they felt more like filler, because they tried to cram this whole 3-act story into 30 minutes and it just didn't work. So now they had about 50 minutes to do that, it worked quite a lot better. Because this episode is pretty self-contained, which is, again, not my favorite thing in the world. I would love for each episode to sequentially make sense in the order that they came out in, rather than just being one-off standalones, but you know what? It's fine. This episode is pretty much a self-contained story with a little bit here and there about the previous season and the next episodes moving forward, and honestly, at the end of the day, once I realize what this season is and what this episode is, I guess I can't complain. Now, there are plenty of twists and turns in this episode that'll keep Star Wars fans very, very happy, I think. There are a couple decisions there that may make some Star Wars fans not so happy, but overall I think that Jon Favreau, who directed and wrote this episode, took a lot of time to just put a lot of care and attention into every single detail of the episode, like he did in Season 1, which is great. Some of the hand-to-hand action is just beautifully shot, and some of the backdrops even are just beautiful. I know they use the technique of shooting them on virtual screens, but honestly, you can't tell. It's beautiful to look at. And like I mentioned before, Episode 1 of Season 2 is pretty self-contained. It's sort of a 3-act structure in 50 minutes, and honestly, it can feel kind of rushed at certain points, like they're trying to cram all the elements of a 3-act structure into 50 minutes, but at other points, it works really well. I will say, this is not a spoiler, but this episode felt a lot like one of the episodes in Season 1, just done better, in my opinion at least, and we'll go into that more in the spoiler section. Overall, though, I thought this was a very, very solid start to Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. I think this is a very good launching off point, though I don't think I will remember this as my favorite episode of the season or the series. So I'll give the pilot of The Mandalorian a B and a 7.9 out of 10. Now, just to let you guys know, I may not be able to do this for every single episode. Life is getting crazy, things are getting busy, but I will try to do one for the finale, and I'll definitely make sure to do a review of the whole season once it's all said and done. So stay tuned for that. Alright, moving on to spoilers. So enjoy this picture of Baby Yoda, and we're going to go to spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Final warning, spoilers ahead. You've been warned. Let's get into it. So let's talk about Boba Fett, the character and the armor. Now, heading into the season, I had heard all the rumors, right? Timothy Olyphant was seen on set wearing the Boba Fett armor, and so I kind of figured that he would be in the season, but I had a suspicion that it was just going to be Timothy Olyphant parading around in the Boba Fett armor, and it wasn't actually going to be the character of Boba Fett. And to be quite honest with you guys, that is what I would have preferred for this series. I don't necessarily love the idea of resurrecting Boba Fett from the Sarlacc pit, and so just seeing this episode and watching that unfold before my eyes, I was actually so happy to see that it was not the character Boba Fett, but the armor of Boba Fett. I think that works so much better for this character, having him be more of a mantle than an actual character. Because, I mean, this kid clone, not the greatest thing that Star Wars The Clone Wars ever did for any of its characters, so... But then he shows up later, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But let's get back to Timothy Olyphant as the Marshal, or Cobb Vanth. Honestly, I really like the character of Cobb Vanth and what Timothy Olyphant was able to do with him. At the end of the episode when he says, "I hope to see you again," I actually genuinely hoped that we were going to get to see him again, and I don't know, maybe we will. I thought his relationship with Mando, while a little bit awkward at first, started to really warm up, and I started to enjoy their chemistry more and more. And those action scenes later where both Mandalorians, or I guess quote-unquote Mandalorians, because, you know, Timothy Olyphant's character really isn't one, but those scenes where they're flying around and just fighting the Krayt Dragon, 2 guys on jetpacks, that was pretty awesome. But Mando seals the deal, kills the Krayt Dragon as we all knew he would, and he rides off into the sunset. That's kind of what I was talking about with this being a self-contained story, right? You have a beginning, middle, and end. It's pretty solid. You could have stretched this out to an hour and a half and made this a sort of mini movie. It's the Mandalorian rousing these troops to fight a bigger enemy and getting the villagers to help and all that sort of stuff. Where have we seen that before? That's right, Season 1, Episode 4, The Mandalorian. And honestly, I thought this episode did it so much better. The idea of rousing the villagers and the common folk and getting them to fight an enemy that is bigger than themselves, uniting with another enemy, the Tusken Raiders. I think they just executed this extremely well, precisely, deliberately, and using every single minute that they could to develop the characters in the story. I thought that was great. It was a little bit different than Episode 4 of last season because Episode 4 just kind of felt slow. It felt a little lethargic, almost like a pit stop. So this, being fast-paced and just moving quick, even though it was 50 minutes, I thought that was great. Although, side note, we saw in the trailer of Mandalorian Season 2 that they're bringing back that blue alien guy who was in Episode 1 of Season 1. Did not like him at all. And then there's this mechanic lady that was in like Episode 5 or 6 of Mandalorian Season 1. Did not like her as well, so yeah, she's back. I don't know why they're bringing back these characters. They weren't consequential at all. Did not like her in this episode either. Just wondered why in the world she was here, but she was here, so yeah. And I also love that a lot of this episode was seen in the trailers. The opening shot, the boxing ring, I love that because that means there's just so much more in store for the later episodes of this season. Now, let's get back to the question of Boba Fett because that's probably what everyone wants to talk about. So like I mentioned before, I wasn't really a huge proponent of the idea that Boba Fett, the character, the actual person, was going to come back, and I was really happy that Timothy Olyphant wasn't actually Boba Fett, but we saw the last shot of Episode 1, and it looks like it's Boba Fett. So I'm torn. I think they did a lot of good things to set up the fact that Boba Fett was still alive, like as in establishing the character again in a way that was subtle and nuanced, and then bringing the character back rather than just having that Sheriff Marshal character be Boba Fett. But I just don't really want him back. I can see a lot of interesting things happening later on in the season. For example, I could see towards the end of the season Cobb Vanth fighting with Boba Fett and sort of dueling with him to fight for the armor and maybe killing the character Boba Fett because I really want Boba Fett to be a mantle. So to see Cobb Vanth at the end of this season just take up the mantle of Boba Fett, I think that would be really cool. But he's here, and he's probably going to hunt Mandalorian, probably going to hunt Din Djarin, so what can you do? Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's cool, and I think the shot is really cool. I just have a hard time wrapping my mind around the fact that Boba Fett, the character, the guy who got shot into the Sarlacc pit, is still alive. Lest we all forget that this guy is who's hunting Mandalorian this season. I know, he's just a kid, but, you know, had to put that out there. So overall, like I said before in my non-spoiler section, I think this episode is solid. It has a good beginning, middle, end. You could watch it as a standalone, but I don't think it's something that I'm going to revisit for a while. Maybe just to rewatch before episode 2 comes out, maybe. But again, I liked a lot of things from it. I think it improved on a lot of things from season 1, and I'm excited. I'm really excited that they actually brought out Boba Fett in episode 1, because I was kind of worried they were going to be like, Ahsoka's here in episode 6, and Boba Fett's here in episode 7, and Sabine's in episode 8, and then, oh, season 3, bye. So if this means we're going to be getting those characters and big things that were quote-unquote promised, I know they weren't promised, they were rumors, but anyways, yeah, sign me up, let's go. 7 more weeks of Mandalorian, and then we move on to WandaVision. Super excited. So those are my thoughts on the pilot of The Mandalorian. Again, I can't promise that I'm going to be doing this for every single episode, but I wanted to do one for the pilot, as well as for the finale, and hopefully I'll do one for the season as a whole in December. So, if you haven't subscribed already, then make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. And if you want to check out some more videos, check out the videos on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.